things coming up. Kings organization. The Kings get 2 big points in a game against Nashville, and the Ontario Reign punch their ticket to the AHL playoffs. We're going to look at both of those things on today's episode of Locked On Los Angeles Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey everyone, this is Locked On Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and my name is Sarah Avampado, host of this show, and as always, glad to be here talking with you about your favorite hockey team and mine, the Los Angeles Kings, and also the Ontario Reign. We're going to be looking at some things that our teams are doing today on this podcast, which if you are new to this show, first off, thank you for listening. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day / whenever you opened your podcast app. And of course, most importantly, thank you for telling your friends all about the show, because we're getting into unprecedented times for Kings fandom in the Locked On Kings era, because the Reign are back in the playoffs. They clinched their spot in a win last night. The Kings have a significant chance of making the playoffs. Not gonna jinx it. It's not 100%. Obviously, no one's clinched anything in the NHL, but something would have to go catastrophically wrong. Knock on wood. No more wrong than things have already gone. We're pretty assured that we're gonna maybe possibly see the playoffs. So I'm really excited to get to talk about playoffs and to have hockey to talk to you about after April something. So we've got a lot of exciting stuff ahead of us. So let's actually start with the Reign, because that is the biggest, most significant news. They played the Grand Rapids Griffins last night, Tuesday night, and turned in a 6-2 win. You would say that it was total domination of them, but the shot counts actually favor the Griffins. The Griffins outshot the Reign 26-20. So yeah, the Reign scored 6 goals on 20 shots. That's not great. I feel like this was retribution for all of the times that I have talked about Calvin Pickard, who is the goaltender for the Griffins. And I've been Cal Pickard's honestly probably too good for the AHL. He definitely could be an NHL backup somewhere. And then he turns in this performance. Now, I will say that you can't possibly blame it all on Cal Pickard. The Griffins in front of him are not necessarily a particularly good team. They're overly physical to the point where they're, spending a lot of time in the penalty box. And without having, an outstanding power play, or without having an outstanding penalty kill, things go poorly when that happens. So that win clinched a playoff spot for the Reign. Little insider knowledge, though, they would have clinched anyway because of the fact that San Jose lost to Stockton that same night, earlier that night. And so for the Reign, that loss would have put them into the playoffs anyway. But regardless, it was a really strong game overall from the whole team. This was a game where, first off, when the Reign played in Grand Rapids last month, I believe it was. Time is a flat circle. But the Reign put in one really strong game and then followed it up with a really miserably bad game the next night. It was the end of a road trip. It was right before the what would have been the All-Star break had the All-Star game not gotten canceled. So it's one of those games you sort of see a little bit as, a scheduled loss. The team's not going to do particularly well most times in those situations. But this obviously was the Reign's chance to get a little retribution from the way that last game went, and they sure did. First 5 minutes of the game, Martin Frk, 2 goals, his 32nd and 33rd goal of the season. TJ Tynan scored later in that period. Second period, Aiden Dudas, Jarrett Anderson-Dolan both got on the board, and TJ Tynan scored to close things out in the third period. So Hattie watches. I can't believe I just said the word Hattie. I'm sorry. for both Martin Frk and TJ Tynan. Tynan has been just absolutely phenomenal this season. I think if you are someone who has watched the AHL at all, broader than just watching your own team, you will know exactly what TJ Tynan brings to a team. If you didn't hear it, I talked recently with Jared Shaffron from the Ontario Reign, their communications department. You can hear him on the broadcast and, of course, frequently giving Twitter updates and everything. But he talked a lot about the importance of TJ Tynan to this room, of being a guy who expects the best from his teammates and who expects, 110% effort all the time, and who has really been a crucial figure in helping push this team forward. And I've seen that myself whenever I covered Tynan when he played here in Chicago. He definitely was one of those guys who knows what it takes to win at this level, who expects and demands the best performances from the guys around him, and who lifts up the players that he's playing with. And so that is exactly what he's been doing with the Reign. Right now, TJ Tynan is tied for the AHL lead in scoring. He's tied with Andrew Podorowski, who used to be on the San Diego Gulls, who's now here in Chicago with me, I guess. But both of those players have 79 points in the AHL. Both of them are on pace to reach 100 points, which would be, this comes from Patrick Williams, who is basically the AHL reporter. He writes now for the AHL's website, but if you are interested in learning anything about the AHL, Patrick's your guy. Per Patrick, this would be the first time that anyone has reached 100 points in the AHL since 2009-10 season. So it has been quite some time. Usually players who are scoring at that sort of a clip in the AHL get yoinked away and go up to the NHL. So it's really hard for anyone to really score at that elite level because usually the NHL comes calling. For neither of these guys, they're both players who I think have deserved shots in the NHL based off of having watched both of them play for a long time now. They just haven't ever quite cut it. But these aren't guys who are, attitude problem. Like, these are great people that you would want in your room. But again, on pace for 100 points. In his last 14 games, TJ Tynan has 30 points, 5 goals, 25 assists. Just absolutely ridiculous, and is really helping drive the success of this team. Of course, you can't ignore the contributions of Martin Frk either, who currently sits second in goals in the AHL with 33. The goal leader right now is Stefan Nason, former San Jose Shark, who is now with the Wolves in Chicago as well. Frk would have more if he hadn't been called up to the NHL a handful of times already to play up there, but Frk as well, just really, really helping to make this team the best it can be. So great night from the scorers on this team. One other interesting thing to note, Taylor Ward, we talked about him earlier in the week. He's the NCAA player from Nebraska, University of Omaha, Nebraska, who finished his college career, signed an entry-level contract with the Kings, and is now with the Reign on an ATO, amateur tryout agreement. That basically makes it so he can play professional hockey, just not without his Kings deal kicking in. He picked up 3 points on the night. He assisted on Martin Frk's first goal and on both of TJ Tynan's goals. So this kid, first off, was plunked into an excellent situation, being put into his first professional game on a line with Frk and Tynan, and absolutely took advantage of it. So this was a great way for the Reign to shake off that losing streak they've been on. They've now clinched a playoff spot, and now it's all down to seeding to see if they can get that first round bye or if they're going to have to fight through an extra round of the playoffs. We're going to look at the Kings coming up next and their awesome win over the Nashville Predators. But first, let's talk about food, because here's a little secret. I love food. I think food is great. It's delicious. It's necessary, obviously, to survive. But spending time in the kitchen cooking food or looking in my kitchen and trying to figure out what to make with the like 14 random ingredients I have sitting around is basically my least favorite thing in the world. I love like outsourcing the food decisions to some other entity. And HelloFresh is a great way to do that. HelloFresh delivers pre-portioned ingredients to your door, including farm fresh produce that basically gives you the recipes, skips the trips to the grocery store, tells you, guess what? Here's what you're eating today. You're eating, chicken parmesan. Go. I'm a big fan of anything that makes my life easier like that. As you can imagine, juggling about 14 billion balls in the air every single day, and knowing that HelloFresh is there to deliver food to me, and all I have to do is follow some very simple instructions, and then very quickly am going to have some food that I made, and I can feel proud about the fact that I made, but that I didn't have to lose my mind over. So HelloFresh cuts back on the time you're spending in the kitchen. It makes it so your whole life is easier, and it's 72% cheaper than a restaurant meal of the same quality. So you're saving money, you're saving time, and again, I really cannot overestimate, over announce, whatever, like how nice it is as someone who, just doesn't always function brain-wise the same way that everyone else does, to have something delivered right to me that all I have to do is follow some directions on. So you should absolutely be going to check out HelloFresh. HelloFresh is a proud partner of the LA Kings and fueling hockey fans everywhere. Go to hellofresh.com/lockedkings16 and use code LOCKEDKINGS16 for up to, get this, 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. So go and check it out at hellofresh.com/lockedkings16 to get your kitchen life revolutionized. HelloFresh, it is America's #1 meal kit. So in addition to the Reign pulling off their exciting, fun win over the visiting Grand Rapids Griffins, who they're going to see later this week as well, the Kings also pulled off a somewhat improbable win over the Nashville Predators. This was a game that I was kind of concerned about. We've seen the Kings obviously blow it lately. That game against Vegas was very, very frustrating to watch. As we kind of said earlier on the show, losing to Colorado, there's no shame in losing to Colorado. Everyone has lost to Colorado. Losing to the Sharks, I don't know. They're just our nemesis. That's just the way it is, I guess. But the Predators were such a crucial team to get 2 points over. I mean, if we couldn't get 2 points over Vegas, we definitely needed 2 points over the Predators. The Predators are kind of battling in that number 3 seed in the Central / down into the wild card spots. It's all just very uncertain, and any ground we can gain on people fighting for those wild card spots, the better. Because if we do happen to slip down there, we want to make sure that we're everything's okay. So this game, the Kings came out, roaring from the start, rolled to a 6-1 win. The headline on the NHL is that the Kings pounce on the Predators. But Adrian Kempe got things started out. First period, a little over 3 minutes in. So he broke a little bit of a kind of slump of his own. Prior to this game against Nashville, he had 1 goal against San Jose and then had 10 games in a row where he not only failed to score a goal, but failed to score any points at all, which is basically the Adrian Kempe that we all know and love. But Kempe opened scoring against the Predators. Arthur Kaliev shortly after on the power play puts in a crazy shot. Trevor Moore scores shorthanded to round out the third period. I mean, that's not even halfway through the period. That was 10 minutes and 39 seconds in. Trevor Moore shorthanded. And that goal, I have to say, the hard work was all Blake Lizotte. Mr. got a new contract, turned in an awesome performance on this one. Just really amazing hard work from him up in the corner to battle for that puck and get it out to Thousand Oaks native Trevor Moore, who was in the right place at the right time to just chip that puck in. But Kings jump out to a 3-0 lead, and it just really felt like the Predators had no answer. They had no fight. There was no life to it. Second period, Predators kind of started being a little more active. 10 shots for the Predators to 11 for the Kings, but I can't really say that I ever really felt like this game was in doubt. The Predators scored one goal in the second period, early in the second period, but nothing else after that. Teams, whether power plays, whatever. Kings go into the third with a 3-1 lead, looking to finish strong, not let the lead evaporate. The Predators very rarely found themselves in the position of needing to make a third period comeback this season, and the Kings made it so that they couldn't do it. Kempe scored once in the third period, but Quinton Byfield, 2 goals for Quinton Byfield in the third period. The final goal came literally 30 seconds or so after Kempe's goal. It was one of those, like, not even done announcing it yet, and the next goal happens. But Byfield, his first goal, if you watch any highlight from this game, if you don't have time for the 6-minute highlight package or whatever, go watch Quinton Byfield's goal his first goal from the third period, because not only was it a great move from Quinton Byfield, which it was pointed out on the broadcast that this basically was a move that Byfield had tried earlier, and just he sent the shot way too high, didn't succeed. Byfield did not miss this time, but this was another play that was set up really, really strongly by Rasmus Kupari, who had just a fantastic game in this matchup. I think everyone is sort of saying this was maybe his finest game in a Kings uniform. He started the season looking pretty good. You're okay, you're still a kid, you're still getting used to this, but all right, this is a good start. And then someone on Twitter basically said, and then he became irrelevant for most of the year, which is true. He faded pretty quickly. Whether it was the schedule, the pace of the games, just adjusting, whatever it is, he just did not look very well, and justifiably was sent back to the AHL, where he looked great again. Called back up again in the wake of all these injuries, and just put together a spectacular performance. That kid line with Kupari, Byfield, and Velarde was really one of the most effective lines for the Kings in this game. When you look at possession, the Deneau line came out on top, but the Byfield line wasn't very far behind. They just looked like they could make something happen anytime they were out there on the ice. That line accounted for 5 high-danger chances. They gave up some chances against, but you know what? They scored goals. Whatever. It was just a really fun performance, and I really hope we can see them continue to keep this up as we go through the season, as we wait to see who we're getting back from injury. If that kid line can get going, I know everyone has a different name for it, the champagne line, whatever. I'm honestly of the opinion that lines don't need nicknames. We can just call it the Byfield line or whatever. But fine, it's the kid line. If we need a name for it, it's the kid line. If they can get going, if they can kind of start cycling together to really bring more depth scoring to this team, that's fantastic. Because there was that small chunk in the season, before everyone seemed to go cold at the same time, there was that chunk in the season where we were actually rolling 4 lines and getting contributions from 4 lines. And if we can get that back again, we're going to be in a much better position. We're going to take one final look at the Kings situation, the standings, and all of that coming up right after this. But first, I've got more snacks to tell you about, because Built Bar is basically the best tasting protein bar that's out there. If you are someone who is looking for a delicious snack that is good for your body and good for your taste buds or whatever, Built Bar is definitely something you should be checking out. And it's not just the protein bars. They also have a great little thing called the Built Puff, which is the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. I would definitely recommend giving that a look. And they come in amazing flavors. The puff, the cinnamon churro puff, is definitely a fan favorite. Bars come in all sorts of flavors, so whether you're looking for something like orange or berry, or if you're looking for something that tastes like, cake, you can find that at built.com. So go check it out. Check out all the nutrition information. See how it fits into your life. Look at all the different flavors they have. And then go make an order. Go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your order. That is promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. So the win against the Predators was great because, again, gave the Kings 2 more points, 2 more crucial points in the world of sports. Edmonton lost their last game. Vegas lost and was shut out by the Winnipeg Jets. We'll talk a little bit more about Vegas in a minute because they're in the middle of something funny. But the Kings further cemented that number 2 seed in the Pacific. Edmonton's creeping up on them, so that's why these 2 points were especially huge. Because you don't want Edmonton getting too close. At one point, they were just 1 point back. And the even better news for the Kings is that their next couple of games are all against teams that aren't particularly good. They play Chicago on Thursday. They play Seattle on Saturday and Monday. Both of those games are at home in Los Angeles. Chicago just got rid of, the one thing that was helping keep them in games, aka Marc-Andre Fleury. Seattle has, I don't even know who plays for Seattle now. They got rid of, everybody. Mark Giordano's gone. Marcus Johansson's gone. I feel like if you look at Cap Friendly for all the trades, half of them are from Seattle. So, way to take advantage of, the realities of being a bad expansion team. But, so we have 3 games against bad teams. Those should be great. Quick trip to Alberta at the end of the month. Play back-to-back games against Calgary and Edmonton. Those are going to be crucial, especially the Edmonton game, because, like I said, Edmonton is sneaking up on us. April is also going to be fascinating because there's a mix of, again, more Alberta nonsense, Colorado again, but also a lot of, again, bad teams. Columbus, Chicago, the Ducks twice, Seattle, Vancouver, all teams that we should beat to keep climbing up in the standings. So, huge 2 points for the Kings in this game. The Predators right now are holding down that number 1 wildcard seed with 78 points. They're actually 7-3-10, so they've been on kind of a tear. Dallas is right below them with 73. Where's Vegas, you might be wondering? Because Calgary, first in the Pacific Division. Obviously the Kings. Edmonton. Where's Vegas? Oh, Vegas is out. Vegas is not even in a wildcard position. Right now they have 72 points. That puts them out. They're behind Dallas. And more interestingly, if you look at things sorting by points percentage, which sort of equalizes things given the unequal amount of games that everyone's played, that still puts Vegas out. They've actually played the most games out of anyone in the Pacific Division. Vegas has played 66 games. Their points percentage, .545. Kings, .600. Kings are playing .600 hockey. And Vegas may have further complicated their lives. If you haven't been keeping up with the trade deadline drama, let's talk for 1 hot minute about Evgeny Dadonov. So, of course, there's the whole thing of Vegas tried to trade Dadonov, who has a $5 million cap hit, tried to trade him to Anaheim. Anaheim was going to trade Ryan Kesler's contract and some other guy. It would have given Vegas the cap relief that they're going to need to be able to activate Mark Stone and or Alec Martinez if either of them are ready to play before the playoffs hit. Because obviously the cap is still in place until the playoffs hit. Turns out Dadonov had a no-trade clause that no one knew about. Everyone's basically blaming Ottawa right now because he was traded from Ottawa to Vegas, and they're saying that Ottawa just never informed Vegas. Ottawa is being suspiciously quiet on all of this. But ultimately, what it could mean is that trade could get voided, and Dadonov is going to have to keep playing for Vegas unless they want to, put him on waivers to terminate his contract. But I don't think he wants that. Vegas is going to have a problem because they're going to have a lot of cap space to clear up if either of those guys need to come back. And I, for one, am loving it. So, big week for the Kings, big 2 points, and I'm excited to see how they do when they get to feast on some teams that have basically just gutted themselves. That is it for today. We'll, of course, be keeping up on all the Kings news this week here on the show. You can find me on Twitter at RightSaidSarah. You can find the show on Twitter at LockedOnLAKings. Give it a follow, say hello, subscribe, hit the notification button, whatever, so you make sure you never miss a future episode ever. Tell your friends all about it and come back tomorrow for more Kings news here on Locked On Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.